So we're all set here, I think. So it looks like we're starting with Irvin. 4 million cards breached at a
Yeah,
restaurant.
so this one came out today.
Yeah.
4 million stolen cards tied to 4 different chain restaurants, all tied to one big, the Hy-Vee supermarket chain in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
It was all done but through the same group, the Joker Stash
So
folks.
did they breach one organization that had all the cards?
Yeah, it looks like they breached one and then spread out to all the others.
I remember Schlotsky's all over
They,
the place in Texas.
yeah, the Joker Stash people first announced the breach on the 11th, and then they published the data on the 22nd.
Yeah.
But they hit quite a number of people.
Yeah. Wow.
I've heard
Look at that app is something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
They made it to the merchants, and then they moved up the chain, similar to what they did with like Target and Home Depot.
I'm surprised Joker Stash hasn't been caught. It seems to me like these guys get caught within a couple of years of going live usually.
I wonder how they did it.
Right, that'd be great to know.
Yeah, I would. It's often very simple things like SQL injection, but lately it's sometimes malware on the point of sale devices. Yeah, no information here, I think, about how they did it, right?
Yeah, no information, just speculation that it could be that they just get the point of sale system and said, okay, from here, let's pivot up.
But if you do this large or dispersed one, I think it has to be a central clearinghouse or something, right?
Yeah, like it makes me wonder if they hit a pay gate somewhere.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those third-party systems, I think, might be
Right.
vulnerable.
I'm curious, though. That's a good one.
This reminds me of like one of the frequently asked questions I get from home users. I'm safe because I never use online banking. And I say, well, the problem is they'll lose it at the other end on the server.
Right.
And that's what must have happened here.
Right. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean the bank isn't doing it for you.
That's right. The bank is putting it on the computer. So this one was amazing to me. Another motherboard article. The DMV has been selling all the data for money for years, which is just amazing to me. They did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they found that they've been doing this at least since 2014, making more money every year, selling the DMV records to insurance companies and other commercial businesses, which I don't believe this can be legal at all. I mean, they compel you to give them their data. And where did I agree for them to sell it for money?
This is interesting. One of the earlier news stories we did was a story that I had found on this, but it didn't say anything about going back that far, and it did not have, the numbers were much smaller.
Yeah, I didn't believe it when I first heard it, but this is much more convincing.
They were saying the one that I had found was like, they were saying like something like $12 million a year or something, which is,
And this is the California DMV. We're going to have a privacy law taking effect in like 2 months that I would do something about this.
This is amazing.
I know. I wonder if it's fake. I mean, if it was Bloomberg, I would just not even talk about it.
I don't think it is, because wherever I found the original on this before Vice wrote about it was a reputable news source. I want to say it was like the Chronicle or something like that.
Yeah, and I've seen the motherboard exposés, and they tend to be good. So I think this is real.
Wow.
And I think there's going to be some trouble about it.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a loophole for that new California law.
I bet it's just been illegal all along and nobody knew about it.
Well, it's interesting because this, they say that they sold it to private investigators. And I've seen stuff in the past where people basically set up a shell corp, like as a PI, and then all they do is use that to access privileged information on people to compile profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is LexisNexis and Experian. Those are big public companies. So,
but it said they also sold it to private investigators, which means like you or I could go say I'm PI Sam, and I don't know if do they have any kind of formal licensing for that in California?
I don't know. I wonder if I signed something at the DMV agreeing to this? I really don't think so.
I don't think so. I can't.
I
I
think
can't.
so.
Yeah. Anyway, that's,
And it's interesting too how that's, a government agency with taxpayer data. I guess, there's no limits.
I was thinking about it. So you're at RIT right now, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I'm in Rochester, getting ready to head back tomorrow. This is a pretty cool story about the competition that went on over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just keep getting better and better each year. The students test against a fake business. This year it was a fake bank, and next year it's going to be a fake power company. So this year was kind of extra cool because they included physical ATMs that were vulnerable for the students to see if they could compromise. So it's pretty cool.
And you're shipping those here, right?
Well, I am trying to, shipping a half a ton of dinosaur-themed ATMs across the country is a little more logistically challenging than one might expect.
Yeah, we shipped one voting machine for one of those, and it was like $100, but that was like only 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Anyway,
These are all 270.9 pounds apiece, and we're trying to get one to CCSF, one to Cal Poly Pomona, one to Stanford, and one to the guy that reversed the protocol. Which that was very interesting how they had to go about doing that.
Have these somehow been weakened to make them vulnerable, or are they just the way they really are?
Well, yes and no. So they are just the way that they really are. But the person did make, kind of a custom client for it so that it was in keeping with the bank, and they were able to control and see what was going on the back end. But I mean, it's disturbing. It's only like an 8-bit protocol, and uses essentially an old dial-up modem to connect. And once you see the mechanics of it, we were talking about how this makes us not want to use ATM machines anymore. Online banking's one thing, but these machines are everywhere and they're wildly insecure.
Well, I've been telling people not to use those cheap ones in gas stations for years because there's so many simple exploits. Like you can just pull out the power and put it back in, and now there's a default administrator password like a router.
Yes.
So that's an easy way.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are others.
Oh, there are. I've learned quite a bit about that. Enough that, I probably wouldn't be too concerned about using one that's literally, attached to the bank.
Right.
Sometimes they have one in the lobby or whatever. That's probably okay. But at this point, I can't say that I'd feel good about using third-party ATMs.
I wonder if the point of sale terminal at Safeway is any better.
I doubt it. It's only as good as their security and that of the third-party services they use.
This is why I've switched to using Apple Pay, because at least the card number can't be reused.
Yeah.
That puts another layer of security on it.
Yeah, because just like with Irvin's story, a lot of the times the issue is whoever the merchant's using to clear the payments through. So.
Right.
Using the chip and a chip reader, that would be okay. The problem is online transactions where you have to actually type in that stupid number.
Yeah, and also, again, it's what happens. What are they doing with it on the other end? What are they doing with it in transit and on the other end?
If it's a chip reader, it is supposedly a one-time number that can't be reused.
Yeah, well, that's not how it works in these ATMs, I can tell you that. And the encryption is super weak.
Well, I hope you get one here because I'd really love to play with it.
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay, great. And now we're back to Irvin. Oh yeah, the guy not forced to compel the password.
Right, because password is something in your mind, and if you give up a password, then you're divulging the contents of your mind, and that's illegal.
It has been very hotly contested by previous courts whether that's illegal.
And this is going to continue to be hotly contested.
It's very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty much what happened. Is they overturned the lower court and said, yeah, because this person has to give their password, it's in their mind, and you can't do that.
Well, I think this continues something that's been the truism for years now, which is that you're much safer using a password than a fingerprint or facial recognition, because you clearly have no right, no Fifth Amendment right to hide your fingerprint or face, and you might have some right to hide your password.
Right. Right. So for now, it's that you do have the right to hide your password.
But I suppose this will yield again.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see as this keeps turning from court to court to court.
Well, it's a very tough issue. And I remember when I was beginner at this, I used to get very frustrated and say they're just stupid. And then I started talking to Department of Justice officials and lawyers. I began to realize they really are subtle issues here.
Yeah.
Like
And
exactly is protected is something called evidence, and what exactly counts as giving evidence. They're not dumb, but it really is difficult to take these ancient ideas and put them in modern terms and decide exactly what you're giving up.
yeah, right. It's crazy because, you know, one thing I learned taking some law classes recently that I needed to take to finish my degree was that all of the, basically most of the laws that are in use today in modern American society are based on medieval English law. So you know, these laws that we're talking about are based off of common law that was, you know, originally authored in the 1300s, maybe in England.
And the thing that amazes me is nations like Britain, where they have a constitution, but it's not written down. I haven't quite got my head around that yet. But English common law is the same. It's really just sort of a codification of tradition.
Yeah, yeah. So it's weird to see. You know, it's weird to see us trying to fit those into modern life.
Yeah.
You know, I on this front, I mean, I have to kind of agree with the court's verdict because, I mean, I get that there are a lot of complexities there, but the foregone conclusion exception seems a little flimsy here, since they are literally requiring him to speak in order to incriminate himself.
Right.
Also, I mean, is it just me, or does this kind of seem like semantics in a way? Because, you know, how many of us have forgotten our password before, let alone a 64-character password?
Yeah, well, it seemed like that to me at first, but I have more sympathy for it as I understand it a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so now we're back to this one. Yeah, this is a real authority. This is Barat. Barat has now spoken up about fake news. So this is a real influential voice, may carry the day. And at first I didn't understand his argument, and now that I understand it, I hate it even more. But he says the government can't censor free speech, but they should force private companies to censor it. And I'm like, what? He said, well, you know, I already can't swear on broadcast TV and stuff. There are a bunch of FCC rules limiting what you can do. So why don't they limit social media sites so they can't make this crazy right-wing stuff? And, you know, this is, like I said, this is the current trend. Both the left and the right agree that the answer to all our problems is to censor political speech on the internet, and that will create a glorious utopia, and we won't have like whatever you don't like. So the Trumpers think you'll have more Trump, and the anti-Trumpers think you'll get less Trump by doing this. And I think they're both completely wrong. Anyway, but I have really old-fashioned ideas like personal responsibility. Like the only thing that will work is if humans actually are skeptical and consider that they might be reading lies. And I think none of this nonsense of nanny state trying to remove the lies so we won't trouble the poor dumb people that are too stupid to read is going to work. I think people just have to get hurt and then become cynical the way they are about advertising. There was a guy on Twitter I saw a few years ago that said, my 5-year-old daughter was talking to her playmate and she said, oh yes, that looks really good on the box, but it's never as good as what you see on the front. And he said, I'm a proud dad. So 5-year-olds have learned that ads are all lies. And all the adults now need to learn that everything on YouTube and Facebook is all lies. And I think they just need to grow up and learn that. But anyway, that's my opinion. Everyone else disagrees.
I would agree.
The government should censor it anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I like that analogy of the advertising and little kids understanding it now. I'm sure that when advertising got really big with like TV and magazines and like the Sears catalog and that kind of stuff, people had this same issue of they believed it all until they realized, oh, it's not as good as the advertising, and now it's in our psyche of don't trust advertising.
My right-wing friend watches nothing but YouTube and he believes all this complete science fiction stuff now. So I understand the motivation. Apparently sane adult people now believe that like the magnetic poles are shifting and there is no global warming and
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton is running pedophile rings and it's just, they've drifted off into madness. But I guess I'd like to see education as the real fix, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway.
I agree. I actually watched the speech that Sacha Baron Cohen made about this. It was at like a Anti-Defamation League event. I watched it this morning, and I on one hand, let me start off by saying that out of all of the deplatforming arguments for deplatforming, this is the most logical one to me so far. In that I get what he's saying about like FCC rules and government regulations that prevent you from broadcasting certain things. That said, I don't agree with those either. I'm not really for any kind of government censorship. And the other thing about that is that I think that these factions flourish in like extremist factions flourish when you drive them further into secrecy. That's just ammo for them. And secondly, I think that I would rather know if you're a Nazi. I'd rather you not have to like hide that and pretend that you're a decent human being and hide your Nazism from the world. Like, no, I that's who you are, and that's who you want to tell everyone you are, then we should probably know about it.
Well, I think we're going to live through a great awakening of some kind. I mean, at some point, the right-wingers that voted for Trump are going to realize they've been had. I assume it'll be when the stock market falls or something. There's something they believe that we're going to get, like jobs and getting rid of the ethnic minorities by putting in Trump. And I feel like at some point they're going to realize that he's not delivering, and then they'll have some kind of awakening, or maybe there's just going to be a permanent feature of society. I was just thinking, there's no longer a conservative party. This is probably why I feel happier about being a conservative. I never want to join a group this large. And there are no conservatives anymore. The Republicans are insane, and Democrats are wildly liberal, and there's no conservatives in America anymore. So, except for a few that are whining at what happened to the Republicans. And anyway, we're going to have some kind of big crisis on the Republican part, because I don't think they can really continue to go this crazy direction. I think something is going to crash.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure that they're going to realize they've been had. I think that the propaganda is just that effective. I thought that at first, but it seems to show no signs of slowing down in terms of people just buying it hook, line, and sinker. I don't think some kind of global media moralist police is going to fix that, though.
Well, if it doesn't stop, then that's basically the end of democracy. Then democracy self-destructs.
Oh yeah, I think we're watching it happen right now.
Well, I have more faith that there is a limit. You can't fool all the people all the time. I think there will come some point when Trump's corruption becomes so blatant that even the Republicans can't stand it anymore. Or maybe whoever comes after him to keep going in this direction, like Nikki Haley or something.
One can only hope.
Right. He can be the spearhead, and then everybody at the wake goes, "What happened?"
Well, my feeling about democracy is it's like the bumps on the edge of the road. You can go really far off course, but there comes a point when you're so crazy that everybody can see it, and then they vote you out. And that's all it does, is keep you from too far. I think it's working as well as it ever has. I think around, it was just this crazy in the 1840s. I was just hearing a historian about this. And at that time, they only had two papers. There was the left-wing paper and the right-wing paper, and they all totally lied about everything, just like now, and everybody believed it. I don't think this is unprecedented. I have some faith that it will get better.
So you think this is just a wave, like the 1840 wave?
Yeah, this has happened before when one side starts controlling the news media and everybody lives in a fantasy world. But the point is, there comes a point when people notice things you can't deny, like they lost their job and the economy is shot or something, and then they get fed up with and throw you out. I think the fact that the stock market is going up is why people love Trump. And at some point that will stop, and then they'll decide he's no good. Anyway.
Right. It's kind of like the basic thing of the Greeks. After a certain time, you're going to get voted out. That was just part of the process.
Yeah, you can't fool all the people all the time. I'm hoping that if you can, then democracy will never work.
What bothers me, what concerns me is that it seems very effective they've perfected blame shifting to, when these things happen, there's no real accountability. It's just, and I see this both on the parts of the Democrats and the Republicans, there's no real accountability. It's just blame the other side. And your constituents that are of your party will just believe it because it's, come down to oppositional identity politics at this point in a lot of ways.
But I don't understand how the Republicans can blame anybody else. They control everything. So the current state is certainly due to their policies. Right now, I think they're not upset because the stock market is high. But if they get another 4 years and the stock market crashes, then I think they'll have trouble blaming that on somebody else.
Sure. I wish that I had as much faith in the American public's capacity for sensible logic as I do in yours, Sam. Unfortunately, I don't.
Well, I was very upset when Trump got in, so I started reading history. And this is not unprecedented. We have been here before, and we got through it. People are not stupider than they used to be. In fact, they're smarter than they ever have been.
True. That's a great point.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I was very upset, and I got over it by looking at history. The world has not come to an end. It's just one of those bad times we passed through. Anyway, so we're down to unblockable web trackers. Boy, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, this is nasty, but it is the trend of the future. And in fact, there's kind of a race for these because, people are finding ways to get around it and protect their privacy. So they're working on better and better ways. This one relies on DNS queries. And so, just using your regular browser and the kind of, ad blockers, pop-up blockers, tracking blockers that normal people would use typically isn't going to do it anymore. So, and the part of the reason for this is that data is very valuable. Surprise, surprise. They sell that. So
I don't understand how this works. I gotta see like a Wireshark trace or something. How do they mark my machine with DNS?
So I think that what it does is it somehow keeps a record of the queries that are made, and then I'm not sure. It says it uses this technique called DNS delegation. I haven't heard of that. I have heard of DNS aliasing before, but I haven't seen it in action. And basically they're using a mechanism that allows these external tracking companies to emulate or spoof basically the domain. So it looks like like those trackers are coming from the domain that you're visiting. So like if you go to like NewYorkTimes.com, this, scummy ad company .com basically mimics their domain. So it looks like you're hitting that instead. So
yes, it does look like it's a way to basically feed a cookie now. Well, I should make a project out of this where that's very interesting. We should be able to just watch this happen with DNS or something. And that's pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah, this makes me really, I need to, get my rear and gear and set up a pie hole. Because that's, it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, I've been spending all week doing ARM exploits. I've got
But even I don't think a pi hole will do the job, especially when DOH takes over or Dell takes over.
Well, I wonder because the way the Pi hole works, it's essentially a DNS sinkhole. So I'm thinking that it could work.
Right, but if your browser is using a different DNS,
Right,
then
right.
it'll bypass the Pi hole completely. And a Pi hole actually came out against DOH.
Yeah.
Because they said, hey, if you start doing that, then you're not going to use our system at all. It'll bypass it. And they, when they released that note, they also released how to force browsers to not use Doe through the pipe.
like you're underwater. I don't know if you can do anything about it.
Oh.
Oh, now it's.
No, he's.
Try
Is that better?
Yeah. Okay.
Is it better?
Oh.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, I can hear you a little bit, but you're kind of breaking up. We have a lot of these weird problems with Zoom on this thing.
I really wanted to hear what he was saying too, because it was interesting.
Go ahead and say what you're saying about the Pi hole.
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm gonna switch.
Yeah, I think you better. You're still breaking up. Maybe use the phone or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's the next one up anyway. So I'll put this up.
Just give me what I call.
It's interesting how it seems like, I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and it's amazing how I go to these places like Utah and rural Western New York, and there's like fiber here, and it's really hard for us to get it in California. You'd think like with all of us being in the Bay Area, we'd all have like super fast internet readily available, but not so much.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now it's better. Why don't you say about the Pi hole?
So what I was saying about the Pi hole is they came out against Doe because what they found is if a browser is using Doe, it bypasses the Pi hole completely.
Right.
So in their post, they also added a note on how do you configure the Pi hole to tell the browser don't use Doe so that DNS flows through the Pi hole.
That would make sense, but I think you're right. If I could make my own DNS proxy, I could just strip out whatever that extra stuff is.
Well,
yeah.
Though
Like a defense, yeah.
I guess if they are really effectively mimicking the domain, that would be hard to do, because how do you separate it from the place you're trying to go?
I wonder what a VPN would do. That's why, I really have to set this up and look at the packets and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I've done is I set up on DigitalOcean a Pi hole plus VPN.
Yeah.
So I see that there's no ads whenever I'm through the VPN.
Well, I've got a emulated Pi in QEMU, and I'm totally hacking it at the binary level. It's great. I'm going to have a whole series of projects about that.
Oh, nice.
Last part of it this morning, so that'll be up like today or tomorrow.
That's great.
Awesome.
That article does say that that if you use Firefox and uBlock Origin, it'll prevent it. And it's funny though. I think the problem is you can actually visit the site you're trying to visit. Because I was playing around with that a little bit earlier, and it seemed like it just blocked you from connecting at all. So. Even if it's effective, I'm not sure it's a great fix if you still can't access your content.
Well, I was thinking that would be the advertiser's defense. I could just send you the page with the mark and then test to see if the mark is there, and then refuse to let you see the page unless you accept the mark.
Right.
So you'd have to have some kind of clever intermediary that lies to it effectively.
Well, it'd be cool if it was JavaScript based or something where you could find a way to catch the page content loading before the tracker activates.
Yeah. I bet there's
And
one.
then decide to not. Yeah.
Anyway, so Urban, you've got one about the Bluetooth pump.
Yeah, there's this is one of those PSAs, especially if people are going to be traveling this week for Thanksgiving, to take a look above you, not just the pin pad to see if it's a fake one, not just the card skimmer to see if that's fake, but also look above to see is there a camera up above watching what you're doing.
You know,
It just doesn't end.
the gas pump card readers, these are probably the same garbage that you got with your dinosaur ATMs, aren't they?
Ha 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 ha! No, but that'd be cool. We should actually put a card skimmer on it. That could actually be an expansion pack.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking that these ATM machines are probably the same technology as those crappy these
I'm
things
thinking,
with gas pumps.
yeah.
are the
Oh
same
yeah,
technology.
definitely.
I
Mhm.
probably shouldn't be using these either.
Well, there's been a bunch of those in the Bay Area that have gotten it, especially in my area. And a lot of them are, I noticed that a lot of them tend to be like in California anyway, the Valero stations, they seem to turn up a lot there. Part of this is the way that the outside of the machines are constructed. One of the things that they do, have started doing, at least at my bank, is they will, if you can see where above the keypad, the place where you insert the card, it's really easy to put a skimmer on top of that because it's small, it's modular. So what my bank's doing is making an oddly shaped piece of plastic that goes there that you can't really fit anything over it. Can't really make it into a card skimmer.
And they're not reading the chip. They're all mag stripe, which is terrible.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm liking those things less. They should make them Apple. Yeah. All right, well, that's a good one. And I've got, the last one here. There's a Y2K problem in Splunk, which is bloody awesome.
Oh, I see that.
I've got a bunch of Splunk servers up. I'm teaching Splunk. This is awesome. So apparently something horrible will happen on January 1 in Splunk. It's going to fail in some spectacular way. So there's updates coming out, and I got to check this out.
Wow.
We're using a 2-digit date inside Splunk, and this seems not to be the fault of the external sources because the date timestamps are added by Splunk. So apparently they didn't see this coming and used a 2-digit date. I've got to see this happen. It'll be pretty soon. It'll be a great project for my class. Let's watch Splunk think it's 1900 or something. Or maybe crash or something. I got to see how bad this is. But you don't see that very often. Not too many people make this mistake. Anyway. And now we got one from Liz about the NYPD fingerprint database.
Yeah, so I thought this was a pretty good story, and one that we can expect to see repeated over and over again. So last year, basically their entire fingerprint database, their LiveScan database, which coincidentally that's what we have to do in California to become teachers, is to put our fingerprints into that. I need more RAM. Great, my browser's locking up.
Well, the video still works.
Okay,
Yeah.
well that's good. Yeah, so clumsy maintenance of these. Now I remember a few years back going to a talk in San Francisco, a security and privacy talk given by a former NSA official. And she said that the same thing happened with the federal fingerprint database. So, all of us that have TSA PreCheck, our fingerprints have been exposed to some nation state threat actors. So,
ransomware.
Yeah, in this case, it was a virus, and they claim that nothing terrible happened as a result of it. But just an interesting little indicator of how vulnerable that info is. And there was another I thought it was interesting. One of the little blurbs in this article mentioned an illegal database of juvenile offender fingerprints that they'd maintained. That you're supposed to delete those after a certain point. And those had been exposed as well. And I mean, it's just a great example of how these government agencies have very poor data hygiene. And how that can make them an even more attractive target.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the endemic problem with government is they have no money. I came across another government agency recently where they have just been appointing people to have the title security officer who have absolutely nothing, have no training and no pay, so they can tell their compliance, we have security officers. So,
see, but do they have no money, or do they horrendously mismanage the money that they have?
Well, those are closely related, but yes, absolutely. Especially if you're I think you can assume they're just embezzling all the money. But anyway, there is no money actually used on security. So it all somehow vanishes elsewhere in the pipeline.
Yeah. I've seen this movie before.
Well, we're going to have a $1 million bond to fund the college. It's like the fourth bond in the time I've been here. And I will see if San Francisco wants to bite again. I guess I'm supposed to say this is a great idea and I approve of it, but I'm not sure that's true. Anyway.
I think you're right. I think they should just cancel all the classes so there's more money for the administrators.
That does seem to be the current policy.
Why do we need classes and students anyway?
Yeah. Well, I'm increasingly just looking to the private sector and sort of giving up on the college system. Anyway.
Expel all the students, fire all the teachers, and then we can just pay millions of dollars to have these guys push paper around. Because that seems to be what
they're like. It'll be like you can just collapse and take a pile of money home with you.
Yeah, it's like they're now figured out how to exit scam higher education too.
All right. Are there any more comments? Guess I'll stop the recording. All right.